everyone could rise, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is over here to my left. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming this evening. I just have a couple of things I'd like to talk about. The first thing I'd like to say is, and I've said this in the past, but thank you to the administration for supplying us with the monthly newsletters. A lot of times that's really our only contact with what's going on in the schools, and the information that we get out of that is really valuable, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to put those together. That said, I would also like to thank the administration for hosting board members, and thank you board members who were able to attend the boardwalks throughout the district. For those of you who are here don't know what the boardwalks are, this is a program that Patrick put in place, and once a year all of the members of the board have an opportunity to get a tour and meet with the administrators in all of the schools. And I just find this, you know, it's really informative. I wasn't able to attend all of them, but I think you know, the board would agree with me when I say it's really a good opportunity for us to engage the principals and see the staff in action, and talk about, you know, issues that are pertinent to each of the individual schools. So thank you to the administration for hosting us, and I found those really informative. Couple other things I just wanted to mention. I got a thank you here that this was to the entire board, so I'll read this to you. Dear RSU1, I'd like to thank you so much for letting us have 2 nights at Ferry Beach. We had lots of fun. I like the food, the lessons, and of course, the free time. And sincerely, I think it's Jacob Maury. I'm not sure what grade Jacob is in. I found this with a packet, but sounds like he had a great time at Ferry Beach and was kind enough to give us a thank you for that. I was able to attend this weekend the Flow Reception, which celebrated the program that we do in conjunction with Chewonki, with the Woolwich 8th grade and the BMS 8th grade. And that was really, you know, very nice presentation. We got to hear some of the students speak, and you know, it just got me thinking that we live in such a beautiful part of the state, beautiful part of the country with all the natural resources we have, and there are so many programs throughout our schools, at the elementary school level, at the middle school level, at the high school level, where we're taking advantage of, you know, the rivers, the ocean, the marshes, the beach, you know, whether it's investigating clams or the Green Crab Project, the Phippsburg Project that goes to Morris Mountain, the 6th grade program at Woolwich, the Flow program, Ferry Beach. So I was just thinking it would be great if we were to catalog all of those programs that we do in the district that involve the environment, and really tout that, because that's important work, and it's something that's unique to this part of the country. Not every school has that opportunity, and I think we need to really speak to that. Only other thing I wanted to add is I was also able to attend Mohiba. Great performance on Friday night by the folks at Morse. I think it's their 86th year. We have some very talented folks at that high school, and they really had some wonderful performances. Amazing, just amazing talent, and very well attended. My wife and I and one of my sons, we had to sit nearly in the back row because there wasn't any room any closer to the stage. So just some highlights of the district. So with that, I will move on to item 4.0, approve and amend the minutes of October 26. Those were in your packet. Is there a motion regarding those? Move to approve by Alan.
Sure.
Second by Bill. Take a moment to look those over. Any changes? Amendments? I did notice on the last page, on page 4, under public comment, about halfway through that paragraph, it says both sites are owned by the City of Bath, and we have let us know. I think it should be they have let us know. And then 2 sentences after that, instead of saying at the point, maybe should say at that point the board will select. You fine with those changes? Alan? Fine with those changes? Okay. So there's a motion on the floor right now to approve. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. None opposed? That passes unanimously. All right, item 5.0, adjustments to the agenda. Patrick, anything?
No adjustments, but with Carolyn Nichols, we're just guesstimating that she'll be here at 7 o'clock. So obviously we're not going to go in order here. And when we see her come in, maybe we can just move to that item on the agenda.
Okay. All right, item 6.0, public session. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak? Okay. We'll move on then to student presentation. We have one this evening from the Career and Technical Center, and I will turn this over to Patrick.
So I'd like to introduce Nick Dowdy to come up, and he's going to do a presentation tonight on the online portfolios that we're doing at BRCGC. So I'm not sure if Nick, are you going to take it away or somebody else before him? No? Okay. Thank you, Nick.
Hi, my name is Nick Dowdy. I'm a student at Bath Regional Career and Technical Center in the Commercial Arts program. I'm also a senior at Morse High School. I'm here to show you my portfolio that I've been working on throughout the past 2 years that I've been enrolled in commercial arts. Like me, students in all programs at BRCTC keep portfolios to document their learning throughout the years they're in it. My portfolio shows the work that I've created and the standards that I've met. I have a first year and a second year of different projects that I've created. And I have an About Me section. The About Me section is a brief description of who I am and is also personalized as my portfolio. And I also, below that, have a resume. The resume is provided for the viewer to see my qualifications. A few highlights for my resume include earning college credit to a CMCC for Photoshop 1 course. And I also earned the privilege to be in National Technical Honor Society. And now I'm going to move on to my commercial arts highlights. These are highlights over the past 2 years that I've been in the program. The first one is the magazine cover. This is a Rolling Stone themed magazine cover that I created, and we're supposed to just take a Rolling Stone theme and create our own little twist to it. And on every project that we do, we keep the date, the title, the concept, and the skills used to show the standards that we've met and keep track of what we've done the past years. And next I have a patent-free library poster. This is a poster that the patent-free library came to Mrs. Kenny and asked to see if we could create something for their book sale. I created this and it got chosen to be advertised for their actual book sale, so that was really neat. Next is my Foundry House logo. This is a fictitious logo that is a fictitious company that we had to create a logo for, and I ended up creating this, and I went through a lot of steps to actually create the logo through sketches, and it helps me a lot for my future logo designs if I want to do that in a career. And my last example is the tech department poster. This is a poster that tech came to Mrs. Kenny as well and asked if we could create a poster to advertise their open hours for the students. And this actually got chosen to put on their door as well, which is really neat, and I was proud to be able to do that for them. These projects help build my graphic design knowledge as well as my comfort with the programs that we use. Vocational programs at BRCGC allow students to take full advantage, documenting their learning and being able to demonstrate what they've learned through the use of portfolios. Students are able to exhibit the level of their trade through their portfolio for post-secondary education or with a future employer. That's it. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Any questions from the board?
First thing, it was really impressive. It's sometimes hard for the public to understand. They understand the academics, the basic academics of school, but sometimes it's hard to understand all the components that BRTC does. So I think this is a wonderful way to highlight that. Do you put anywhere on your portfolio the number of college credits you were able to attain? Is that something you guys?
I don't have that on this, but I have different things on my resume, which is on my portfolio.
Okay.
So that's the only one that I've earned so far for commercial arts.
And the last question would be, is there any tie-in between developing the things that you've done and actually working on development of our own website? Is that something that you guys also work on?
We don't do website designs.
Thank you. All right. Thank
you. First of all, really good job. That's really nice.
Thank you.
So what you created here, are other students doing this now?
Students in all BTC programs have a portfolio to document their learning throughout their time being in there, so they can show people, future employers, what they can do.
And how do they, I mean, obviously you're in design, you know how to do this. For kids who are in other career paths who maybe aren't as familiar with the tech side, how do they do it?
Do you want me to answer?
Sure.
Ms. Goodman, the applied academic instructor, works with all of the programs to develop what kind of portfolio works best for their program. For instance, not all programs have an online component. I think probably half of ours do. And they begin with a template of all of our students create resumes before they leave, so that's always part of their portfolio requirements. And it always documents their learning with certain examples of projects that they've completed and the standards that they've met. But not all of them have the online component like the commercial arts because it may not be as relevant in their trade.
But this is completely relevant, so yeah, great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just had a question too, again, but although Ms. King, it might be more directed toward you, I don't know. In terms of, I mean, it's a great portfolio, and my question is do you think the employer community out there understands what the portfolio is intended to do, and are they receptive?
My thoughts are yes. I've used our student portfolios as one example when we work with our dual enrollments with our colleges in order to show what standards the students have met and the quality of the student work that comes out of our programs. I can show the department heads at the college level, this is what our students are doing, and these are how they're meeting their standards, and it helps them kind of understand the segue between the career and technical training versus the college prep training. So I think if we handed it off to an employer, they would get the same background. I know that Nick, for instance, will use it on his college application. He'll put that as an example, and we will create a new one because he has to use an art portfolio with his application. So we will create a Google site for that with the examples of his work. Good answer.
Yep.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, well, thank you very much for coming in. All right, we will move on from staff reports on to committee reports. We have one committee report, item 9.1, Morse High School building project update. Patrick?
So we've had 2 meetings since the last board meeting, I believe. One was the visioning committee and the building committee coming together to give input on the ed specs for new Morse High School. And then I believe that the ed specs, which is really the visioning work, will come to the board for your consideration in December. We did receive some feedback from people at the meeting, and we've incorporated that into that. The other meeting that's happened is another, we brought our site selection committee back together, and they had not been together since last summer when they actually walked 3 properties that were potential sites for Morse High School. So we got together, and right now we have it narrowed it down to 2 sites. One is Wing Farm, and one is the middle school site for the new high school. And our architects, Department of Education, we've had 1 meeting with them since the last board meeting, are all in favor that the 2 sites we have it narrowed down to are the 2 best ones from a land standpoint, from an infrastructure standpoint, and also proximity to the city standpoint. So we do have a meeting on December 2nd in executive session with the City of Bath because it's a real estate issue because the 2 properties are owned by the City of Bath. And so we'll have a conversation with them with our architect present.
Are there any questions for Patrick on where we are with the project? I just have one. Steve, go ahead. All right. The question I have is, I was just reviewing the timeline the other day. Do you know by any chance what step we're on, and are we still in keeping? It looked to me like we were on step 5. Does it sound about right to you?
I think we're between step 5 and 6. We're shooting for the spring, which could be March, April, for the straw poll vote. So if you look at that 22-step process, that colorful piece of paper, that's when we would have that done. So that gives us time to find out what the acquisition cost would be for the properties, hopefully, and then narrow it down to 1 property that would be for a straw poll vote in the spring.
Thank you. Steve?
That was a question, just whether we're on schedule.
Yeah. We're on step 5 of a 267-step process. Yeah. Okay. Item 10.0, Superintendent's Report. Patrick?
Just a couple items. Tim mentioned a few that I won't repeat, but Morse varsity football team received the Sportsmanship Award for 2015 for Class B South. We're down in Portland this past weekend to receive the banner at the state championship game. The fall play, Almost Maine, was held for 3 nights, and all 3 nights were sold out. So thank you to Mr. O'Leary for a wonderful play. My daughter and I attended that. Mohiba, my daughter and I again, and her boyfriend and my wife went, and on Saturday night. And Tim talked about the history of it. I would say that to me, the student, to have the courage to get up there, and a lot of freshmen were up there doing single acts as well as skits. To have the confidence or to have the courage to get up there was impressive. And number 2, to have the staff every year be in a video that is comical and entertaining, but not every staff at a high school would do that. And I think every single staff person, from teachers to ed techs to food service personnel were in that act. And this lastly, I would just say that, as I was sitting next to my wife, the one thing that she noticed, she sat there and said, I'm just impressed at how supportive the students are of each other. It really was a nice show. Just to mention one professional development for the administrative team, all of us went to Point Lookout, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago, and it was a law seminar that was put on by Drummond and Woodsum, and it was funded by the Superintendent's Association for the Mid-Coast area. So all of the school districts in Mid-Coast were there, and a lot of pertinent topics that we talked about, as well as just a good day for the administrative team to be together. And then lastly, I know we recognize teachers for a lot of different things, but we had a 5th grade teacher at Phippsburg, Amber Snell, who was recognized really for saving a student's life. We had a student that during snack time had a bottle cap lodged in their throat, and she thankfully has been trained in CPR, Heimlich maneuver, everything else, and just acted very swiftly and was recognized, I think it was last week, at an assembly at Phippsburg. And it was just, we thank her for her efforts. Teachers do a lot of things, and this is another example.
Okay, thank you. Item 10.2, financial report. Okay.
So Deb couldn't be here tonight. I'll take any questions you have. If I can answer them, I'll try to. If not, I'll get back to you. But ironically, we looked at it this morning, that we've spent 22.9% of the budget to date, and that's exactly where we were last year at this time. And the revenues, 36.2, is very similar to last year. So we don't have any concerns at this point right now as far as where we're at with our spending.
Are there any questions for Patrick on the financial report? I'm going to ask one. And I noticed that again, we have a line item both under expenditures and under revenue of tuition. We've expended about 1/3 of the tuition money, so we've paid out 1/3 of the tuition money that we had appropriated. But in terms of receiving tuition, we've received nothing yet. Should we be concerned about that, or?
I think it's just a timing issue, but I'll
timing? Okay, thank you. All good on the financial front? All right. Item 11.0, old business. 11.1, board goals. Any discussion from the board regarding the status of the goals? I have one question for Patrick. I know this came up as part of the boardwalk. Our goal number 4 was to sort of come to some closure with the elementary school configuration, specifically Dyke Newell and Fisher Mitchell. Is any work started on this yet, or where are we at with this?
Actually, a survey was created, a very simple survey, and I believe it was put on the Facebook pages of both schools, Fisher Mitchell and Dyke Newell. Tonight at conferences, there's been Chromebooks that have been set up with directions of how to fill out that simple survey, basically just asking people which configuration pre-K to 2 and 3 to 5 like it is now, or considering pre-K to 5, 2 schools, and returning to that system and really asking them, whichever one they choose, why do they feel it's in the student's best interest to move in that direction. We'll be giving the same survey to the staff at both those schools, as well as then Jen and Ross and I have met, and then processing that information at staff meetings to hear from our own staff as well. And my thought process was for the board, for you to hear from parents, instead of us just holding an evening that possibly, maybe December, but December's hard to get people out, well, so was January and February, but at some point is to maybe just have it as a board discussion to see how you feel, as well as for parents to be able to come to you and come to a meeting and speak, and maybe have it more of a workshop format so people don't have to just, maybe we can come up to a mic and be intimidated by it. So yeah, we are starting to make movement on it. We've talked with Bath Bus Service. I've had some discussions with some of our itinerants like librarians and other people, and I have talked with the city just preliminary about if we were ever to make a change to try to get some data on where families live, where incoming families live. So, because at some point, if we were to go in this direction, we've got to kind of draw a line to divide the two schools. So we've made some progress today.
The two things that I would encourage is, the first is, I think you're doing the right thing, starting with the administrators of those schools and then reaching out to the staff in those schools. But I would at some point, whether it's on the website or locally, just make a formal announcement that the board or the district is taking a look at this and they will make a decision by the end of this year so that it's on people's mind. The second thing is, at some point I would encourage you to reach out to all of the staff within the district, because I know that we have staff members who at one time or another worked within these schools. They may no longer be in the schools, but they may be able to shed some light on that. So, all right, thank you for that. Jennifer?
Just one comment. When I was reading the board goals, I also noticed that on the Dyke Newell school report letter that we got from them, they said they're talking about adding new playground equipment. And looking at that, my first question was, would that investment change if they were thinking of a K-5 school versus the current configuration now? And it's wonderful to always increase what's here. I taught here, and I know how much these kids need that outdoor activity and how that playground responds to that in different levels. But I was just, one thing is I was hoping that before we made too big of an investment to improve those things, that we would think of what would that also mean to a K-5 school versus a
No, it's an excellent point. I mean, we need to keep all of those things on the radar as we go forward with this decision. Okay, anyone else on? Steve?
Yeah, just one, Patrick, as you pull your comments together, it still isn't clear to me, maybe I missed it, but it isn't clear to me why the district chose to go with the K2 and 3-5 configuration. So I wonder if there's anyone left with that institutional knowledge.
Yeah, I have a report of what Vita was able to find, 8 years ago, I think it was, and so I have a report. I can scan a few of those documents. I have met with 2 people that were on that committee way back when, that both have pretty good memories. I think, again, these aren't just the only reasons, and there's Joanne's here, there's other people that still work in our system. I think there were 2 issues, and I think this will come up in our conversations, and one was that, there is a benefit to having all your staff that teach a certain grade level to be in the same building for continuity, for curriculum, for planning. And then the other piece that was mentioned in that document back 7 or 8 years ago was the socioeconomic status of Bath in general, that there was possibly an area of Bath that was higher or lower than the other, and that caused some questions or concerns for the group that was studying this as well. There's other other reasons as well, but those are 2 that really stood out to me when I was reading that report from 7 or 8 years ago.
You can just incorporate that.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Bill?
Just a couple of things. I was here rather early tonight, and I could have taken the survey if I wanted to be dishonest. I'm not a parent of an elementary school, but I did know that there were 3 laptops up in the hallway here at the school, and they were available for the survey. So they're addressing the issue with the parents here as we go along, and that's good. The other thing I was just going to bring up, it has surfaced in our annual retreat with our administrators in the past, and we're going to be meeting again on the 14th of December, and it could very well be an agenda item there for folks to kick around and come up with some ideas.
Thank you. Anyone else from the board on the goals? All right, we have 3 second readings of policies tonight. We'll begin with item 11.2, second reading of policy JJIAB, charter school students. This is an action item. Is there a motion on this policy?
I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, move to approve by Jen, second by Steve. Any further discussion on this policy? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to approve, raise your hand. Okay, none opposed. That passes unanimously. The second policy is policy JKF, disciplinary removal of students with disabilities. Is there a motion on this policy? Move to approve by Bill. Second. Second by Steve. Any further discussion on this? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to approve, raise your hand. Okay, none opposed, that passes. And then second reading of policy IHBAA and IHBAA-R, referral policy and procedures. Is there a motion on this policy?
Move to approve.
Move to approve by Jen, second by Bill. Any further discussion on this policy? Questions, comments? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to approve, raise your hand. Any opposed? None opposed? That passes. Okay, under new business, item 12.1, personnel items. We have a couple of retirements. Patrick?
So we have 2 retirements. One is Betty Ann Buchan, who is guidance counselor at Woolwich Central School, and she has a total of 28 years to the district in Union 47, and she left for a little bit and came back to RSU1, so I'd like to thank Betty Ann for 28 years of service. And Louise Lamarck Main, high school English teacher at Morse, for 28 years as well. I'd like to thank them both.
Okay, thank you to those folks, and just also want to make mention that in the staff video, there was a nice tribute to Louise and Charlie Main, who had been at Morse for quite some time. It was a nice touch. Okay, we will move on to 12.2. We're going to discuss a behavioral support program. Patrick?
So once a budget is passed, we typically do not come to the board unless we feel there is a pressing need. And most of the time, that pressing need is in a classroom when we exceed the class size limit, or we have a kindergarten class that we can't predict. We try the best we can, and it may, again, be over the class size limit. In this case, as you know, in the past couple of years, that the administrative team has had a lot of discussions about behavior and behavior support, and even last year, as we went through the budget process, we talked about a behavior specialist to come into the district to work with all of our schools. And we just haven't been able to get that into the budget, and as we reflected on it, one person for 7 schools may not make the biggest difference that we'd like to see. So this year, and tonight we have Jen Vos, who's our principal here at Dyke Newell, and we have Justin Kelleher, who's our new special ed director. And you know, we have charged them with working together to come up with a plan with a philosophy of really trying to help our youngest students in the district. And so they're going to present this to you. I know you've had a chance to read through it, but just do a brief overview of this information and then take questions that you might have.
Before Jen and I start, we just wanted to say thank you to the board for the opportunity to discuss this potential opportunity to enhance our special ed programming. Jen's going to talk about the rationale and the needs for the program at Dyke Newell, and then I'm going to discuss the purpose, goals, and some of the logistics involved. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So we're here tonight to talk with you about a behavior support program that we'd like to see begin at Dyke Newell School, and we'd like to see a program start this year and then kind of transform a little bit and evolve as we, move into successive school years. As far as the rationale and needs go, we have 250 students, pre-K to 2 at Dyke Newell School, the vast majority of whom behave very appropriately and are very successful, but there is a cohort of students, as happens year to year, that do struggle with some behaviors. We have some supports in place, and we certainly have some strategies for working with those students, but there are a number of whom their behavior challenges are such that it's disruptive to their own learning and it's disruptive to the learning of others. When we went through and kind of looked at the students that are in our population right now, we tagged about 14% of students that require some additional behavioral intervention, and anywhere from 2 to 5% that the behavior is so severe it may move to out-of-district placement kinds of situations. We have challenging behaviors that have occurred and significantly disrupt the learning, and those result in things like restraint situations. If a student needs some intervention to protect themselves, to protect their safety and the safety of others, sometimes we have to hold them. We're trained in how to hold them safely. But that's never a situation that you want to have happen. And sometimes we do have to put them out of district. We've had a number of students referred already. We have the potential for additional candidates. And so when we look at the impact of that behavior on students and staff, it is a large impact here. Our current behavioral interventions rely on a lot of support from our regular education teachers, but also our special education teachers. Our educational technicians act as support people for those students, and our special ed teachers are often called in to be support in classrooms, as well as myself. We have students with positive behavior support plans. We teach them the corrective behaviors. We give them goals around those behaviors and incentives for meeting those expectations. We consult with our school psychologists. We have social work services in place, but again, sometimes this level of support is just not meeting their needs. What we see as some of the benefits that would be offered by an in-house behavior program is that we'd be able to keep the kids here at our school that we see are sometimes being moved to those out-of-district placements. If we can keep them here, they stay within our RSU1 community, and when we have met that behavioral kind of goal of teaching them how to behave appropriately, it would be easier to transition them back into the classroom with support because they're not coming back into the district from another place. They've learned how to be successful here, and so we can re-enter them into the classroom and provide that kind of transition service. In addition to this, by having a behavior support program in-house, our regular education and our special education staff are more able to meet the academic needs of the entire population here. We're looking at a program that would have 3 tiers of intervention, similar to our other response to intervention programs, where Tier 1 support is for students who really don't need a very intensive program, but the classroom teacher might need some strategies for working with students. And so the person that we bring on board would be able to observe and offer some support to teachers for working with those kids. Tier 2 would be some more intensive support. The students might get pulled out for part of the day to receive some special behavior instruction. And then Tier 3 would be able to offer a self-contained program, which at this point we can only offer with an out-of-district placement. With this goal in mind, it doesn't mean that we may not need an out-of-district placement for the occasional student, but we'd be able to keep more of them here in-house and do that work with them here. And so Justin's going to talk about the program that we're hoping to put in place.
Thanks. So Jen touched upon a lot of this, but I'll just run down what I have here. So the purpose of the program is really to provide a higher level of behavioral support for students in grades K through 2. And our rationale behind that really is if we can get the students at this level to engage in more appropriate self-regulation skills and coping strategies, it'll translate down the road into us having less problems at the higher grade levels. So that's the hope. And in terms of curriculum, we hope to align it with the Dyke, well, we will align it with the Dyke new school curriculum and students' IEPs. So one of the benefits to that is that when we send a kid out of district, the curriculums don't always match up. So when they transition back into the public school, that can be problematic. Our goals are to decrease the number of students who require out-of-district placement due to behavior. And as Jen said, to try and keep them connected to their school community is big for us. And it makes the transition, again, more fluid. If the program is in your school, say a student, for example, is showing signs of developing self-regulation skills in the self-contained behavior program, and we feel that they can access a class with support, we can do that much easier than if they're placed out of district. It's just more of a complicated process. The rest of our goals sort of align with the 3 tiers that Jen was talking about: consultation with classroom teachers, inclusive supports, and pull-out self-contained services for kids who need that really high level of support. Some of the other goals would be to coordinate behavioral services with special education and regular education staff, provide some trainings and some support. And another big goal would be to provide a social work component. We feel that it's really important to have sort of a wraparound approach for these kids where we not only have direct social work services here in school, but that social worker works with the families and carries over some of the things that we've worked on here at school to home, so there's that consistency which really benefits the kids. In terms of staffing, we would need 1 full-time special education teacher with a unique set of skills. This person would have highly developed observation skills so they can pick up on what might be causing a student's behavior, and also be able to quickly come up with some responses to deal with that behavior. We would reallocate 2 ed techs currently in our special education programming, because currently a number of our ed techs are working in a one-to-one situation with some of the students that we feel would be good candidates for this program. So I don't anticipate that we would have to, at this time anyways, hire additional ed techs. We could just move some folks around where it would make sense. And again, the social work piece. In terms of a teacher contract position, I would say 2 days a week would be beneficial to have the social worker here in the building. We could talk about that further. So the location, we met with Dave Richards a couple weeks ago. We kind of identified a few spots in the building that would be ideal for this program. And the one we found to have the best setup in space would be the current resource room. And within that room, we'd like to develop a quiet area for students. This would be an area for kids to access when they need a break, self-initiated, or when they're asked to take a break, just to kind of gather themselves, process, and work on those self-regulation skills. Our enrollment would be similar to a special education referral. We would take a look at the general education interventions, see what worked, what didn't work, and then we'd come together as an IEP team and gather all that information and see if the program was a good fit for that student. Ideally, in terms of enrollment, we were thinking no more than 6 students, so a 2-to-1 ratio at this time, so we could have the appropriate level of support for kids. And we, as Jen alluded to, we have about 4 to 6 students on our radar right now that are going to need a higher level of support than we can currently offer in our resource room model. Resources needed would be the facility work that we talked about, recruitment and hiring. For me, I put a little note here, that's a really critical piece. We need to find the right individual to lead this program. We have to have not only those behavior skills, but good communication skills, good collaboration skills, and really some leadership skills. So if we can't find the right person, we need to be patient with that. We would like to visit some similar programs just to get some ideas, but we're comfortable with where we're at now in terms of getting the program rolling, but it's always good to get other feedback and ideas from districts with similar programs. The last piece, and I won't go through this line by line, but it's the financial considerations. Just in general, Patrick, he went to a Maine School Management Association conference, and in general, an out-of-district placement is about $45,000 a kid. That doesn't include transportation. So if you think about the number of kids we need to send out of district, if we can keep some of those kids in our building connected to our building, it just makes sense financially. Ready for any questions if you guys have them?
Anyone from the board Have questions, Jen?
First of all, thank you both for the presentation. And I was also thinking about this when I was reading the newsletter for this month too. So it sounds like there's a real holistic approach to behavior here in the school. There's some wonderful programs that are going on that communicates that throughout this entire student body, which I think are really positive and would lend to this kind of program too, is that it's not just, you're not just trying to isolate one problem and treat that. It seems like it's definitely a holistic school approach to it. I think that's makes something like this very positive and successful to doing it. I know that it's a concern and a request, I think, throughout the district to have some kind of program like this. And I think to help everybody understand why it's really important to start at this early age intervention, hopefully the person, if you could find that right kind of person, could be available to the other schools in any kind of professional development, Late Start Wednesday, any opportunity. Their focus would be here, certainly. It would have to be when they could, but to be some sort of professional sounding board for behavior issues. You know, even when we have intervention from other different programs, it'd be so wonderful if this person could also, we could also show this person's benefit to the entire district, and that's why we're starting like a pilot program here, and that we can grow on it. I think those are wonderful things. And the last thing I would say is I taught Title I here in the school, and I started my career with Union 47 as a one-on-one person in the special ed department. And I know the challenges in the classroom, and I know the struggles specifically with this age group here. And I think it's just would be a wonderful program to not send kids and families of this age and development out of our district. I think that their reentry is going to be much more successful and much more higher potential in happening if we can service them within their community and within their friendships and things. So I'm a big believer in the program.
Anyone else from the board? Megan?
I was just wondering if there's any social worker now employed.
We have a contract with Sweetser, and so we have a social worker in the building for a period during the week. We also have another social worker that we can refer families to if for some reason our Sweetser person is full or if they don't have a great relationship with Sweetser. So we utilize 2 social workers right now. We have about 32 kids receiving social work services, but one of the pieces of the behavior program would be similar to now when we send kids out of district. It's a mandatory component of the program, and so the students have to receive some social work pieces, and the parents are involved in it as well.
So would you use Sweetser as well? Would you just increase that time for Sweetser, or is it totally something different?
We'd explore those opportunities. I don't think we're really firm on that at this point.
Yeah, I think ideally we would have a social worker that would be dedicated to that program and those students, because they're our highest need kids. That doesn't mean we couldn't use them in other areas of need, but I think, you know, one point person for that would be important.
I know our current Sweetser person is shared in multiple places and is pretty booked. So I'm not sure.
Well, they're probably not here like every day, right? They come an hour or whatever, so it might push someone here. That's getting those new around. My other question was, but I think you kind of said it too, was just that.
Megan, could you just...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, pull it closer.
Sorry. I was just wondering, and I think you said it already, but that I just wanted to make sure, like, pulling the other ed techs wouldn't affect the special ed students that aren't having the behavior.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And, you know, currently we have a number of our ed techs here that are one-to-one, again, with students who would be good candidates for this program, so we wouldn't be impacted.
And those other students wouldn't lose out by them being part of it?
Not currently, no.
Anyone else? Steve?
Yeah, really just to follow on Megan's question, do you think your proposal is, in terms of the social work, is that robust enough? I mean, it seems to me that I mean, you know, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a social worker, but the issue, the behavior that's represented here doesn't start when the child goes through the threshold of the school, and it's important, obviously, to maintain the learning environment here. I can understand, but are we doing enough on the other end, dealing with family issues that might be a factor.
In terms of the program, when I was thinking about the social work piece, I was thinking about the students' IEPs would typically have 30 minutes a week of direct service, and that could all be achieved in a day, and then that other day would be consultation with the families, with the staff in the program, and with other staff in the building. So ideally, we could have more of a wraparound, but I think we could get away with the 2 days a week to start out. I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, it doesn't persuade.
Yeah.
I mean, we're delivering service with our behavioral specialists to the child, but it's not. But it's dealing with the way that a situation that manifests itself in the kid when they come to school, and our I mean, some of it is not a school issue. I have to say. I mean, it's a community issue. It's a family issue. Are we doing? I've said this before in different, not in this presentation, but it seems to me we deliver special education services very much in this one-to-one. We recognize the problem, we try to deal with the problem as it manifests itself in the school. But the school can't be the solution. We can deal with the effect, but we're not. We need to look at the cause. And when I say we, I'm not talking about the school. I'm talking about the community at large. Really needs to look at the cause, and what little piece we can play in this, I guess, is through our social workers.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. There's a lot of external causes for our students having trouble, and the hope would be that the social worker would work to build that bridge as much as possible with the family and here at school, so we can develop some consistency of the self-regulation strategies and those types of things we're working on with the students.
And the social worker would be able to find those resources outside of school. Maybe that's what you're talking about, Steve. They would help the families know all the resources that are available to a young child struggling, to a family struggling. Whereas sometimes just knowing what those resources are and also being able to access them, or a two-tiered skill approach, could really benefit some families.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've already been able to recognize since coming to Dyke Newell this summer is that there's a staff here that's really skilled in trying to connect families with resources, whether it's med management and people who might be willing to counsel parents for free or pro bono, food resources, temporary housing, Christmas presents for families who might not have. And I think we have a large number of staff who are constantly trying to seek out supports for kids. And so this would be another layer to some work that's already going on to address those kinds of outside of school pieces that sometimes work against our students.
So when you're talking about all this with the social worker, so when you're saying it works for the 2 days, is that standard, pretty standard how the social worker usually works with students? I mean, it's on the same level as a social worker works with students now?
In terms of service time, yeah, it is. I mean, typically, as I think I said before, an IEP will call for 30 minutes a week direct service, and that typically doesn't even involve much of a family component, to be honest with you. So we're kind of up in the ante a little bit with that, where we'd have more of a family piece in this program than we do typically when we provide social work services.
And then the full-time position of the teacher, then, so every day, does that mean that these kids are in this program for the full day, or how much of the day are they in?
Yeah, it would be, they would start out in a self-contained setting, and as their behavior improved, they would hopefully transition out into a class at a time where we think they could be successful.
Are there any other questions from the board? Noah?
Does this program that's as proposed meet all your needs, or would it in future years, because the trend of behavioral issues is rising, do you think you'll have to come back and revise again and possibly more staffing? And is this just a baseline from where you're?
So this is our initial proposal of what we'd like to see happen for this year. As as it evolves, we certainly would like to look at being able to accept students from other schools in the district, being able to offer support to pre-K students if need be. So yes, I do think that, this is a starting point, and this is putting something into place right away because it's really needed, and then utilizing our staff resources and being able to improve it and grow the program.
And I think as an administrative team, as an example, it may not go this way, but this year, if it was approved, would be a pilot. We would start small, and then maybe next year we solidify the K-2 grow it a little bit, where we could take students from Woolwich and Pittsburgh that this may be the best place for them. And then ideally, I'd like to see it be pre-K to 5 and have our program meet those students' needs. I would point out to you on your back page that you have program expenditures. It's a rough estimate of saying $70,000 for a teaching position if you take salary and you take benefits, but that was in there for a full-year position. And if this was approved, we were looking at starting it, if the board were ever to give it approval, in January. And so we're looking more at, it's a guesstimate, but $40,000 to $45,000 for that teaching position. So I think your total, if you take all those numbers together, would be more like $63,000 instead of $88,000. And again, I would see that as upfront investment. And then if you look at the other figures down below about potential out-of-district placements and the cost that are going to be associated with that.
Anyone else from the board? Steve?
I just want to touch on the pre-K issue. I mean, there are two things that hopefully, and I don't know whether you're looking for action on this tonight or not.
Ideally, it would be, if your comfort level is there. If it's not, then we certainly understand that. Possibly, maybe another board meeting between now and December 21st, just because of the timing of it. I mean, if you're not in favor, obviously we won't do it this year, but if we'd like to start in January, that advertising or anticipated position, trying to find someone, and again, like Justin said, if you do approve this and we don't get the quality of applicants and somebody with the training, we're not going to rush into this, and we would wait.
I would just hope, and I don't know if we're going to see a further iteration of this before we take action, if we decide to take action tonight. But the things that Jen was talking about in terms of leveraging other community resources, in terms of I just think we're not doing enough social. But you're the experts on this, so I'll go with your recommendation at this point. But and the other piece of it, so I think we need more social. That's my opinion. The other piece of this is the pre-K piece. I would hope that whoever you put in this position, or however you work this behavioral issue through on a district-wide basis, that we engage our pre-K program in this, because frankly, one of the reasons I support pre-K is that it serves as that early screening opportunity for the district to identify some of these kids with issues and begin to prepare our staff as they move into Dykeville, whatever school they move into, and begin to relate to those issues. So I know the pre-K person isn't here tonight, wasn't available, but there really needs to be a very prominent place at the table for that pre-K coordinator in this program.
I would just say that I absolutely agree that the younger we start, the better. And I think for this upcoming year, the potential program that we're talking about could still be a resource for the pre-K in terms of consultation and some strategies to work with the students in that program. But in the future, I agree we should look at the pre-K level.
When we looked at the kiddos that we were currently kind of monitoring for behavioral reasons, there are some from pre-K, and so you're absolutely right. That's a place that does need some support. I think we're really careful when we think about pre-K students and whether or not they would need a pull-out kind of program. But what we're looking at for this year, like Justin said, is a person who could maybe provide some classroom resources and some classroom support. And again, it's the beginning of a more of a more full-fledged piece. But yes, early intervention prevents future problems.
So I just have a question about logistics. So if, I mean, this makes a lot of sense to me. I think that, you know, if everyone's comfortable, we should take some action tonight to try to move it forward. But what I want to understand is, because of the way the budget process works, we're not really going to have the feedback of anything additional you would need. I mean, you have to go through this whole half of the year. So are we looking at, you go through this half of the year, and then you would be the same kind of setup for all of next year to really get that feedback? Or, you know what I'm saying, just in terms of, because the budget process starts in January. So we'd be already having a budget where you, I guess, would at least want the full year concept of this for the following year, but we wouldn't really have the feedback. Do you understand what I'm asking? I'm just trying to figure out how this thing grows, or how you figure out, because a lot of the questions you're talking about, is it enough social worker? Is it all these things? Well, that's why we have to give it a chance. And then we'll know, but I'm just trying to figure out timing-wise, how will we know when all that's in place?
And I guess the only thing I could say to that is that we, during the budget season, to take a look at it from more of a district-wide perspective, and see what the needs are in the other schools, and maybe build our budget for the program off of potential needs in other buildings, because I do know there are some other needs in some of the other schools in the district.
So even if you're saying, so even if you stuck with that grade, maybe you're talking about bringing from other schools?
Yeah, I think we talked about solidifying the K-2, maybe opening it up to our other schools, and then I could see the full-time teaching position, at least if this were to work this year, we'd know, we'd have a better guesstimate than this if we find a good person. And then, I mean, they could be in our conversations with the administrative team at Ed Tech, because maybe one of the Ed Techs that slides in there now, you know, may not work. I can't see us going out to a second teacher in year 2. But maybe some of the support, either the social work or the Ed Tech, might need to be increased.
So there could be, but for the second year, which we get the first full year, you're saying maybe we could at least reach out to the other K-2.
That would be our hope. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
Anyone else from the board? Okay, I've got a few questions. And I do want to thank you on a couple of fronts. There's some real detailed information that was helpful. In some ways, it created more questions than I had before, which is good. And the other thing is, you know, as a board, we benefit from having this material ahead of time. Oftentimes, we get these presentations without having the material up front, and this was helpful. So I'm going to run down a few. Lou just touched on one, or maybe it was you, Justin. Do we have concerns like this in other schools within the district?
Absolutely, yeah. I don't think it's, I definitely think Dyke Knoll has the highest need at this point, but there are students in some of the other buildings that could use this level of support.
Okay, and I'm a neophyte when it comes to this, so I understand when we talk about in the budget, you know, I understand now the concept of response to intervention, and we bring in a literacy specialist when there's literacy issues. I understand, you know, what our life skills program does and who that serves. You're talking about a behavioral specialist. Without going into great detail, what types of behaviors are you talking about that require somebody in the school that we can't currently address with the staff that we have?
Sure. There's a lengthy list, and I'll just touch on a couple of them. Sometimes they're as mild as some very violent verbal outbursts, inappropriate language about wanting to kill people, wanting to shoot people. When kids are really upset, sometimes that's what comes out of their mouth, and we have to get them out of the classroom setting until they've calmed down, and we can manage that. Sometimes the behaviors are things like disrobing, taking off their clothes, eloping from school grounds and needing to be contained because they're running away from the property. Some violence and aggression towards themselves, towards other students, towards staff, kicking, fighting, hitting. Probably the screaming and running is the highest frequency, but there's some really extreme behaviors that pop up day to day that need to be handled.
And Justin, you said that although there's the highest frequency of those incidences here, they do occur in other schools.
Yes.
And they do occur at a higher grade level as well?
Absolutely. I think this is a starting point, but there are needs in K through 12.
Okay, it'd be interesting to hear more about that because, again, I don't want to downplay the situation, but it's one thing for a 5-year-old child to be kicking and running. It's another for a 13 or 14-year-old child to be kicking and running.
I would say at the upper grade levels we have less of the physical aggression piece, but just some non-compliance and some real challenging behaviors to deal with.
Okay. So is my understanding of a self-contained behavior program, the definition of that has behavioral components as well as instructional components?
Yeah, the students are there for their academic day. They would, receive their reading, writing, math instruction. If their behavior warrants, they potentially go to special, art, music, PE with support. But it really would be based on the, their level of functioning in the self-contained room before we would have them go out to other classes.
But first and foremost, this individual that we would be hiring would be delivering instruction or would be dealing with behavioral issues.
They're one and the same in the behavior classroom, and they would utilize their ed techs as they saw fit to help with the instructional piece and or the behavioral piece.
Okay. Another thing that you mentioned that I liked, and I had a question about this, you said if we don't get the right person, we're not going to fill this. And we know with any program within the district, all of our programs, they make or break if we have the right people. Is now the best time to be looking for somebody?
I think it could be a challenge, but I also think that there could be some potential candidates. There's some folks in-house that have some expertise, but I think that we would have a few applicants.
Okay. And from a financial standpoint, are we currently outplacing some students who would participate in this program?
Yes.
And those students that are currently outplaced, would we get refunded if we had a program in-house, or have we already paid for them for their care for the year and would not see those funds returned?
The students we're billed per day that a student is in an out-of-district placement, so it's a daily rate. We would be looking at, if we develop this program, are there some students who are currently outplaced that we could transition back to the public school? And just, obviously it's no secret, one of our good relationships is with the Achieve program. And one of the comments when I discussed with them that we are talking about developing an in-house program is they were actually pleased to hear that, because our students that transition back from their programs often don't have an appropriate place to start their programming back at public school. We drop them into the mainstream classroom or the resource room, and that doesn't always work. So I think that we would just have to take a look at the students who are currently enrolled in our out-of-district placements and see if we could pull some of them back into this program.
Okay. All right. I've kind of dominated the questions right now. Anyone? Bill?
Hi. Old retired social worker. So I'm coming from that perspective as well. And I assume at this point in time, or maybe I shouldn't assume, that we have resources locally that we're currently utilizing and that are aiding our families and our schools, like state agencies and social workers from mental health facilities, that sort of thing.
Yeah, as Jen said, the folks here at Technical are well versed in the community resources, and they try and connect people as best as possible to some opportunities outside of the school.
So you're making referrals, and we have linkages already with existing facilities. Okay, I've been through the behavioral business many, many times over the years. I work with delinquent kids. My concern is that we guard the gate. By that I mean, let's not just, if we develop a program this program, that we utilize it appropriately, and we don't, it would be awfully easy if you got a program down the hall to dump somebody in there just to get an aggravation out of the classroom. So I would be very concerned that every youngster that is referred into this program was in fact in need of this program. And I don't mean to question anybody's professionalism, but I've been there, done that, and I know it can happen. So they would have IEPs indicating that they have these behavioral issues, and those IEPs would refer them into the program. Okay.
So similar with a referral for special education, we would need to have some data to show that they really warrant this level of intervention. So we would start with classroom supports first, and strategies in the classroom, interventions in the classroom, and data to show if it was successful or not. The tier 2 interventions are things like the positive behavior support plans with some partial pull-out time, and is that being effective? And if not, then we would be able to look at a more contained sort of placement. But there would absolutely be tiers of interventions and kind of checks and balances to make sure that we're not just, you know, this child's really difficult, let's put them in a behavior program.
Okay, I'll go on record as being in favor of the program, both its need and the financial aspect of it. I think it would be a good start, and if we can pull it off for 6 months, it will really give us a measure of whether it was needed and whether it can be effective. And finding the right person, I think everybody has brought that up. It's going to be a very difficult thing, I think, mid-year to come up with somebody. But I wish you luck, and I hope we can pull it off.
Thank you.
Okay. I think my impression I got from Patrick is that you are looking for the board to take action on this tonight. Okay, and I shouldn't, going to make the assumption that you support this program, you're bringing the program to us because you support it. I think it might benefit the board if we are going to take an action, that there's some conversation amongst the board members. And I just want to share with some of you folks, this is a unique situation. When we've crafted budgets in the past, you know, over the past couple of years, we've created Priority 1, Priority 2, Priority 3 programs. There are programs that we feel we need in this district that we've put off for 3 years. To approve a program mid-year is somewhat unusual, which one, it tells me that there's a great need for it, but I think also we need to think of it in the context of it's impacting perhaps some other programs that we've put off for 2 or 3 years. So I just wanted, you know, especially Megan and Lou, to kind of give you that historical perspective about how we craft the budget and how we look at programs. This is a unique situation for a program or a staffing position other than perhaps a large classroom to come before the board during the regular year. It's something that we would usually encompass in budget discussions.
But why is it putting something off? Because financially speaking, it doesn't look like it's really taking away if they're able to bring it back in.
I'm couching it in that language. So financially, it may not be. But I think clearly we're hearing that there's a need, in particular in this school, and then there's a need in other schools. There's a need at other grade levels. And that if this program is successful, that there'd be a level of growth to it. So that said, I'm going to open it up for discussion to the board. Jen, you had a question?
I think those are really salient points, Tim, and I think to explain it too also is that this program doesn't just service the individual children that are in the program. It will service every classroom that these children are part of, and it will service the specials, and it will service the whole school daily function, I think, and that's, I think, another piece of, as we're looking at the cost per pupil, we kind of distributed across, I think, almost the whole student body.
Steve, did you have a comment?
Well, I'm going to just follow. What brought us to this point? I mean, you raise a good, it's an interesting point, although I have your comment anecdotally when you did the boardwalk here. But what brought us to this point today? I mean, what are you seeing what's changed from our budget discussion last March when this was presented and we didn't do it?
Well, I mean, not fair to ask them because they weren't here, but appreciate that. I guess I'll have to feel this one. But, behavior consultant was on that list, has been on that list for a couple of years, and we were just, as an ad team, trying to figure out what's the best approach. And I think what Jen just said makes a lot of sense. This isn't just helping those students in this program, it's helping all of our students. I think we've just seen additional behavior that reinforces our concerns at the beginning of this year. And then we've also had conversations about out-of-district placements. Not just the cost, but the affiliation, the connection that we have with out-of-district placements. But there's some students right now that, with our resources that we have currently, we can't meet their needs. And so coming down the road here, from now until the end of this fiscal year, there could be there could be 3 to 5 more students that the IEP process determines out of district placement. And so it just, from the benefit, number one, the benefit for our students, all students, and number 2, the financial implications shortly behind that, which again affects all of our students because it comes from our budget. So it's really kind of, I guess, got to a tipping point. Yeah, we could wait 1 more year and try to get it in, but I think we're just seeing writing on the wall that with our resources that we have, we can't meet some of those needs as hard as we try. As many, the typical thing is to throw, I don't mean it disrespectfully, but to throw an ed tech or assign an ed tech to a student one-on-one. Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't work. And so I think we've exhausted a lot of our resources and we've, again, come to this point. And so going back to Tim's question about other programs, I mean, that certainly has crossed my mind. I don't see this coming out of left field, though, as far as the last couple of years we have, during our retreats, have talked about that concern. And other school systems do have programs like this, and I think it's a smart investment for us to move in this direction.
Anyone else from the board? Lou?
So just to clarify, what you're saying is that when it was brought up in the past about having a behavior specialist, so it's more that this is a clear program. I mean, you knew something was needed, but it had not been clarified as to what the best program was. And now you're seeing where everything's going, it makes a lot more sense. We have this program, so the timing's right. Am I correct in understanding?
From a historical perspective, I think you're spot on in how you're identifying it. A few years ago, when we started having board retreats and looking at needs within the district, there were certain things that the board felt down the road we needed to add to the district, and a lot of it was around programming. After we had that initial meeting, when we met with the administration, 201, what they said they needed was support, additional staff to deal with issues similar to this. So I think, for the past 3 or 4 years, this has been a theme in the district, and we've tried to address it in different ways based on where there were different needs at different schools.
Would this program replace or fill in for any of the low priority programs that did not make it onto this budget year? Is there some sort of list of programs this would cancel out so we wouldn't have to reconsider them? Or is it more just the insurance that it is going to grow and become a larger program?
Yeah, I think it's going to go back and meet the need of that behavior consultant that we talked about. That was one of our high priorities, and so I think it is going to meet our needs better than what we originally had thought of. And so it's really, I don't know, I guess it would replace that. And yeah, hopefully I would like to see it go pre-K to 5 at some point. Is that over 2 years, 3 years? And I'm not sure as we go through the budget process, trying to balance all the other needs that we have.
This can't be our only growth in the district, though. You know, and I know no one on the board feels it, but you know, special ed costs continue to drive our budget, and I'm not denying the need isn't there, but you know, our education generally cannot be about special education. It's singular. You know, it has to be about more than that. And I think as we, you know, this is a start. I mean, you know, I think we need to be prepared to take a very serious look at what's accomplished over a very short period of time. Someone, I guess, Lou brought up that point. You know, we really don't have a whole lot of time. Assuming you can even find a candidate, you don't have a lot of time to demonstrate the value of this program and the need for this program district-wide. But you know, we can't continue to focus all our growth on special education. We have to look at other areas. And I know no one believes that.
No, and I think that's the balance, though, is that I believe this is the fiscally responsible way to do this, so that we don't have these out of control, or we can minimize or manage our costs for special ed better by having a program like this in our system, because we're concerned about those additional out-of-district placements when they come to us, and we've got the price tag to go with it. So it certainly is, and you know, as we wrap up this presentation, you know, we've got you know, we go from K-2 to high school and talking about students that have passion in math and science and the arts, and how we can create the STEAM Academy at Morse, which is the other end of, you know, from here to there. And so yeah, we do have to always balance our needs in the system for all students.
Anyone else from the board? Okay, would someone like to make why don't we take a formal motion regarding this program? Alan?
I think this approach is very sound. I think that it would be very beneficial for us if we can do this for about 6 months to see what the foundation is. It makes more sense to me to have a program in place than it is to have one person who goes around as a firefighter to 7 different schools trying to put out the fire as it comes. It's not going to cure everything the first year, but it gives us a foundation that we can build on and take care of the problem down the road. So I would move that we approve this proposal.
So Alan has made a motion to approve the proposal for a behavior support program.
I'll second that.
Second by Jen. Any further discussion from the board?
I just hope in a couple of months, 2 or 3 months, whenever you hire, that we can get a report back and just pay close attention to the progress of this.
Yeah.
And I just reiterate the pre-K piece of it, because you know, Tim, we'll pack up some of your comments on controlling costs. Is really why we got into pre-K. You know, and we've just got to start seeing the wisdom of some of those investments, and hopefully we can show some.
The irony of that, Steve, is I think that the point that you're making is that we as a district benefit from having a pre-K program, which hopefully addresses some of these needs early on. But I think what I heard Jen referring to is there's a possibility that within a pre-K program, we may identify students who need to be part of this program, and so they will get pulled from pre-K and put into this program. So that the program may end up serving our pre-K students.
But at least then we know it works.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't, you know,
okay.
If it works, I don't mind. You know,
if we could solve their behavioral challenges in pre-K, I think that would be a real success.
Sure.
If it works, let's do it. I mean, you know, the behavioral challenge is real. You know, I'm not denying that reality, but are we setting in motion the right interventions and the right activities that are going to deal with the issue?
All right, there's a motion on the floor to approve the behavioral support program at Dyke Newell. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Are there any opposed? None opposed? That passes. Good luck, folks.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now move back to item 8.1, and we have the STEAM report with Carolyn Nichols.
So first off, Carolyn's here. I'd like to thank her. She's been doing conferences since this afternoon, and so hopefully she can make it through this. But 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago now, maybe 2.5 years ago, I was talking with Jay Pinkerton at the high school, talking with Eric Varney and the science department at the time, and we have a fair percentage of our students that really take a lot of credits, a lot of courses in the areas of math and science, and looking at how we can extend their opportunities and strengthen our program. And then the staff came back with, instead of just calling it STEM, why don't we go with STEAM and include the arts in that? And so Carolyn and other people in the science department have really taken the lead with this idea, and really are here tonight to explain to you what the STEAM Academy would look like, that we're looking to do it more, and what the curriculum would look like, what the application process would look like, what it would do for our students, and then lastly we'll talk about future staffing to make this a possibility. So Carolyn, thank you.
Good evening. Again, my name is Carolyn Nichols, and I'm representing the science department here at Morse High School. This has been a collaboration between the art department, the mathematics department, vocational. It's really been a group effort, so I'm just representing a lot of different people. And so we created a website that hopefully, if this is approved, we can open up to the public. And so, first of all, STEAM, showing off my lobster picture, STEAM lobster, it's human program. So STEAM, first of all, to start with what it stands for, is the acronym, and it's the unification of science, technology, engineering, and math. And so bringing those different fields together. And through that, it's working collaboratively. It's not working in isolation. So we're bringing everyone together. And so it's for self-motivated students who are interested in doing an individual research project during their senior year. However, the process starts their freshman year. So again, here's a little visual to help you with that. Science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. The students who would be working in this would be go-getters. They would be ones that are self-motivated. They don't need a lot of guidance, however, they need a mentor. And so part of our program would be getting them into our communities, into working collaboratively with a mentor within our community. It would have them job shadowing during the junior year, and also having what we call science or art or math or technology experiences during the summer months and during the school year as well. Students also need to maintain a 3.0 to stay in the program. We believe it's very important for them to maintain their core academic study in order to achieve this. It's probably a little small. So we made this very sort of user-friendly for students. It's using the technology that we have available. You apply to be a member of the STEAM Academy during about mid-year during their freshman year. So faculty will have a good idea of who they are, what their study skills are, what their motivation is. And they would apply during, I think around January is what we're thinking, because we want to tie it into the upcoming schedule. Application process is very simple. It would be a simple sort of a couple paragraphs why you want to be or attend the STEAM Academy. And we just talk a little bit about our curriculum. It's fairly rigorous. A lot of our students currently do this, probably as well. You guys probably are in this program already with what your course load is. It's not me. Maybe it was. Sorry, technology. Our students will be required to take 4 years of English. They will be taking 4 years of math, 4 years of science, 3 years of social studies, and 1 year of art. A lot of our students are high achieving students, or go-getters are already doing this right now, so this would be sort of the core requirements that they would be taking. For STEAM, they would be taking a research methods class, which is we would like to introduce an online class for students to take starting, it would be a semester course, and it would probably hopefully start next fall. This goes through and expands upon the research that they've conducted at the high school already, and it would give them, it would be working on their own time. They'd be working with a teacher online, and they would learn the basics of writing a literature review, writing a good question, doing procedure, doing the whole research model. So again, it's a half semester course. And then they would also, during hopefully their junior year, they would work on an independent project, and they would actually start their research at the beginning of their junior year. So they would have a good idea about what topic they want to study, and they would start doing the literature review, seeing what is out there, making contacts. And then during their senior year, they would actually put that research into place. They would finish their research by January, because they have to form a committee that would come in and work with them, and they go before a panel. And so they would have to have that completed by January, because once you get into the spring, your senior year, it's filled with all sorts of other events and AP exams and things like that. The student can also specialize as they go through the program. They can take a number of electives, and so they could take any of our AP courses. They could also take any of additional math or science courses. You'll also notice highlight in bold is the engineering programs at the Career and Technical Center. Also, some of their other programs also would work. So we're trying not to get just our AP kids, we're trying to get any student that's self-motivated into this program. I mentioned earlier that students will be conducting a job shadow where they spend a day with a professional. They would set up that whole program themselves. They would approach a possible person with the guidance of the STEAM coordinator, and they would spend a day with them, following in their shoes, seeing what they do. And then there's the capstone project. This is the capstone handbook, which I heavily borrowed from Deer Island. They do a phenomenal senior projects program there, and so it's been modified from them, as well as the Mount MDI school. I'm just going to flip over to So basically, this breaks it down into, I'm just skipping ahead to the table of contents. There are basic steps of the STEAM capstone. A lot of this is put onto the students' shoulders for putting their program together. So, for example, some areas of content, if someone wanted to make a field guide of the organisms of the coast of Maine, they could. Someone wants to build a windmill, they could. You can combine different fields together. It's just not science, technology, and engineering. We're including the arts as well. You would develop prior knowledge. This is where your literature review comes in. You would find a mentor. You would develop your pilot question, your job shadowing. You also have to come up with an exhibition of your project, a presentation similar to this, a formal presentation that's made up of the community members, students, as well as faculty members. This is all well, it's 30 pages, so I'm not going to go through that right now. But it's pretty well laid out, so the guidelines are all there. And what we're thinking of a timeline for this, our calendar. We're also under the proficiency-based learning, where in 2021, thank you, should know that. 2021, each student has to have 4 years of a science experience. So that means our students have to be involved anyway. So this is what we've been doing this year. We've been creating a STEAM committee at the high school. We've been talking to other STEAM or STEM programs. We've been talking with folks at Falmouth. Mr. Barney and I had dinner with Senator King last week. Although we showed a video conference, we were a little upset because we dressed up and wanted a picture taken on. But we did meet with him. He is all on board about STEAM education in the state of Maine. We're looking to hopefully hire a STEAM coordinator next year. We also need to acquire a space for this to occur. The students also need space where they can create their projects. We also wanted to jump on this. I sort of gave up a couple of my parent-teacher conferences tonight because we really want to get on this in a hurry because we need to get the word out about this. We need to deliver applications to our students. We want to get kids excited about this. We want to get it to our 8th graders to talk to them about getting their STEAM experiences because they have to do 4 years of a STEAM experience. And this could be doing a Keller Bloom, which is going to some of the labs. It could be going to summer camp. It could be going to computer camp. It could be doing a number of different things. So we really want to get them excited about it. So for next year, we want to offer some new courses. We would love to hire a full-time person who would teach the research methods course. Right now we have, I'm looking at around 50 candidates who would be ideal for this program. And to take that online would take quite a bit of time. We're also hoping to bring back our another AP science course. We do not have an AP physics or chemistry teacher in the building right now. We just don't have the bodies. So that person could also be teaching AP chemistry is what we're hoping for. And we'd also start sort of the senior capstone project. We'd start doing the research, making contacts within our community, being a liaison, getting into our local businesses, industries, and educational facilities. As time grows, we also want to work with different pathways within the career and technical school so that they can develop other pathways and also join us in this as well. And hopefully by 2019, we would be delivering students they would get a special annotation on their diploma saying that they have received a STEAM diploma. And that would also be 1 year before our 4 years of science experiences within the PBL program. I've also been talking to some of our community members about STEAM and STEM and what they think. They're very excited about this, so we've been talking to some of anywhere from engineers to artists, the aquarium. They really feel that students need to be well-rounded, not only just know the science, art, math, but they also need to be well-rounded and be able to do different things, such as problem solving, work with different individuals, be creative is what we're looking at. It's a creativity in the classroom. We're looking at the sort of the soft skills, being able to cold call a person you don't know, being able to dress appropriately, show up on time. So these are just different people I looked at, even both college students, you name it. I've been talking to everybody I know, saying, what are colleges looking for? What are professionals looking at? And they're looking at lifelong learning. I think that's pretty much everybody. That's it. Any questions? Sort of flew through that, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you, Carolyn. Are there any questions from the board? Jen?
One of the things I noticed the requirement is in mathematics starts out with Algebra 1. And as you look at making students ready to participate in this program in high school, I hope that we continue to talk about delivering the opportunity for Algebra 1 to our 8th grade students. And I know there's been a lot of talk over the years, and when I was working in mathematics in this district, previously there's been a lot of apprehension towards that. And I hope as we're looking at getting this program, having freshmen be ready to come into this program and look ahead for 4 years, all the mathematics they need to be able to accomplish. I hope that we start looking at making, if we have programs available, to make that opportunity for our 8th grade students as well. The other thing is, I would advise you, or recommend you to reach out to this remarkable woman who's a state representative. She actually represents the area of Brunswick, but she has been in the forefront of the education committee in the legislature, where I do a lot of work. Her name is Maddie Daughtry, and she has been a loud, strong voice in the education committee for many years now, especially in regards to changing STEAM into STEM. And she comes from a unique educational background, but she does a lot of work, and she has great knowledge about funding and what our congressional representatives are doing and how to tie into some of the things that are going on within our own state education committee. So I think she's a great resource. I think that this is the kind of program that would really help address some of the reasons I think that parents and children think about going to charter schools. I think this could keep a wonderful group of our students from not needing to go outside of our district, just like we were talking about for our special ed services. I think this could keep our students not going to charter schools. I think it could give a large number of the children that we have a sense of how they look at their education and where they want to take that to the next step. And I love that you've made part of the program be having our community be involved. I think that we can't service all of our educational needs for our students just by our professional staff here within the district. I think it is a real link to our community, and we have such a dynamic community here. Even though we're small and we're, not exactly in the heart of Portland, it's just a vibrant, dynamic community, and I love that program starts off with that piece of making that. I think that's a wonderful opportunity for the kids and for our staff here. So thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else from the board? Steve? Yeah, I just want to, I think it was a great report. Thank you and your team, I guess. And hopefully we can get a copy of your presentation.
Yes, it's a website that we created. We can share the link.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. That would be great. And the other thing I didn't like, and I think it's very appropriate, is your looking at ways to strengthen the linkages with the tech center, with the offerings through the tech center. And as we move into this process of developing a new facility for Morse and the tech center, it gives some food to thought of what kind of facilities we might choose to develop in that new school that would be supportive of this program. And then the last observation, we can put annotations on diplomas. I mean, we can locally create a STEAM diploma.
It would be a Morse High School diploma, but it might have a silver sticker on it or something that says, it's going to have a lot of meat to it. They will probably receive something through the STEM Academy, some sort of a certificate of some sort, and it might have an endorsement of a STEAM logo or icon that's adhered like a seal onto their Morse High School diploma.
Okay.
I don't know about the logistics of that, what you're legally allowed or not allowed to do.
Well, I don't know. I thought that there were prescribed standards for receiving a high school diploma, and that those were probably fixed statewide.
Yeah, they would meet that, and then they would be doing an additional research project on top of that, as well as the curriculum is above what our minimum graduation requirements are.
Yeah. And outside your committee that put this presentation together, have you had conversations with other faculty at Morse?
Yes, we've been talking or speaking to. I've been speaking to Joel over at the vocational center. We've spoken to the art department, the math department. We've been speaking to Ruth Ann in the engineering. We're working with anybody who can fit within our acronym. And there's also something called STEAMS, which is bringing in social studies as well. So we're open to continue our conversations.
So just to follow up on that, so within the Morse community, talking to the administration there, Do you feel that you have a significant amount of support for this program?
Oh, they're very excited about this because it's bringing our different departments together. We're very differentiated, and so we need to bring us together in some ways, and to work together and collaborate on projects with the student would be just wonderful. And I've been receiving, everyone's been contributing to this, saying, oh, you know, this would be fantastic. I can see this so-and-so doing it, and I would love to be their mentor. So there is enthusiasm in the high school for this.
How long have you been working on this?
It's been 2 years. I was, last year, Lauren Andrews was doing a lot of the research and background information on this. I think 3 years ago, Mr. Barney and I did site visits, different schools that had this. And then this year, we kind of put everything together and put together the presentation for you.
That's incredible work. I appreciate you taking the time and your group to put this together. Anyone else from the board know of it?
So there's only 1 art requirement and 3 social studies requirements as of now?
As of now, in order to keep this so that a large population can participate in this program, because there's also, you know, there's the fine arts, there's also the foreign language, there's a lot of other areas that students have to take. And so for right now, we left it at 1. And again, this is a living document, so if we feel that you need to take 2, that'd be fine. But we wanted some students, if you wanted to be art as your focus, if art was going to be your focus, you could do 3 or 4 electives, and that would fill that art void, if you want, per se. Sorry.
I was just wondering where that A kind of came from, if there's just 1 requirement. And also, looking to have another AP science course. I guess I was just wondering the logic behind
The reason why,
it.
right now we have 6 AP chemistry students for accessing the AP Chemistry for All. They come in to Mr. Barney's room on Friday afternoons, and it's just, it's not ideal. Our students, we could give them so much more. And these are motivated students that are coming in every Friday afternoon and doing labs on their own with the guidance of various staff members, primarily Mr. Barney. And it just seems we really do need a physical science AP program in there. We feel that also the person who's running this needs to be a science teacher, because you need to know the scientific method and the research methods to serve as the overarching picture. Also to work with that, we would like a chemistry teacher, because that would reach more students than the AP physics. We could get more students into that class. We have kids clamoring for the AP chemistry or AP physics every year, and we really need to get another teacher into the building. And this fit our model with what we were doing. So the first couple of years would be more of a networking, and then later on it would be, they'd be overseeing capstones and things like that.
I guess and in the electives, a lot of the electives were AP classes, but to broaden the scope of availability for students, it'd be interesting, and I talked to Mr. DeRosa about this recently, actually. For example, my senior year, I have the choice between AP Bio and AP Environmental Science, but I don't have really the choice to take another non-AP class, which is kind of interesting, because if you are a student who are not persuaded by an AP format or just don't feel comfortable taking the AP class, it'd be nice to see another option available, and that might help with students who might not necessarily be the highest achieving in their grades, but are still very interested in the STEM field. You may be able to catch some more people by adding more courses available that aren't necessarily AP style.
Okay. So do you have any ones in particular that you would be looking for?
No, but we talked about, right now, vertebrate zoology and marine biology, they're all offered as a half-year course, whereas if there was some sort of bio 2 or extended bio, that might be a kind of interesting path to take. and also anatomy being included for more, because I know a lot of, at least in my class, there's a lot of students that are interested in either more like medical type science, and then there's like more students that are interested in engineering. So if there might be classes that are kind of focused around those two areas of science, that would be.
Okay. Anyone else from the board? Okay, Carolyn, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have first reading of board policies. You were emailed those policies, and they were here on the table when you arrived. I'll just walk through these. First policy is policy JJI-AAB, charter school students, access to public school, interscholastic, and extracurricular activities. Again, this is a first reading. Oh, wait. Oh, this was, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Just checking to see if we were paying attention.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we have a policy JFBB, RSU1 school choice policy. Any comments, questions on this policy? Okay. The next first reading is policy JFC, dropout prevention, student withdrawal from school. Any discussion on this? All right. And finally, policy GBO, family care leave. Okay, again, this first reading, be prepared to vote on those or take action at the next board meeting.
Can I go back to family care leave? Because I read it online, I didn't, can't find the references here to my note that I made for myself, but is there family leave beyond available leave credits? Is there paid leave beyond available credits? In one place I seem to read that essentially you can use available leave and claim it as family leave. Family care leave. But if you have no available sick time or vacation or anything else, are you still eligible for paid family care leave?
There is a sick bank, according to contract, that you can access in our district.
So presume if you can take up to 30 days of family care leave, I guess, right? So if you only have 20 days of sick time available to you, you could apply for the other 10 days from the bank.
If you donate to the bank.
If you donate to the bank.
Okay, any other questions on the policy? Jen?
Steve, I just wanted to point out that in the dropout prevention, student withdrawal from school, that policy, the other policy that we're looking at as well, I had them add in pre-K in there. And I know those concerns for you, and I was going over that, so.
I just have one.
Lou? Yeah.
On the school choice policy, I forgot to ask. I know in the past, and I don't know if it applies to this specifically, I'll have to read through it, but I see school choice transportation. Where does, because pre-K was kind of lumped into choice for a while. I'm not sure where we're at with that now. Is there still no transportation for pre-K?
No. If we can make that, plus we can make it work, and then going by, other routes, and perhaps we make those exceptions, but we don't provide transportation.
And that's not part of this policy anyway. That's something else. Okay. Something else to address later. All right.
Any other questions? First reading on those policies? All right, we'll move on to item 13.0, our second public comment section. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak? Okay. Item 14.0, set next meeting dates and locations. We are scheduled for December 21st at Fisher Mitchell. Any issues with that date? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn? So moved by Steve. Second by Alan. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to adjourn, raise your hand. Okay, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
7:57.